Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone! In this week's video, I am drawing two of my viewers' Gacha characters. Many of you have been requesting I do this again, so I'm back with another one of these videos. If you'd like to know how to submit your own character, all of the info is in the description. So let's see who I'm drawing first. This character is created by iBlueBubble's friend. So this is Kiara. She is 16 years old. Kiara is full of energy. She loves to hang out with friends. When alone, she is found snacking on sweets and drawing. Her best friend is her dog Coco. So let's start drawing Kiara. For this picture, I'll be drawing on my iPad 10.2 7th generation with my Apple Pencil. The software I am using is Ibis Paint X. It's a free app that you can get on many different devices. Right now I am working on the line art. I am using the watercolor pencil. I often like to use this because I like the texture of it. I do really like this brush, however, I do want to try to find a different brush that I like for line art. The watercolor pencil doesn't seem to change in size depending on how much pressure is applied. It only changes in opacity. So I want to find a textured brush that changes in size depending on how much pressure I apply to the pencil. That way I don't have to keep changing the size of the brush manually. So I am drawing Kiara and her dog Coco. My idea is that maybe she is taking a selfie with her dog. I never really draw dogs, like, ever. Thankfully, this one is really simple and stylized, so it didn't give me too much trouble. Also, my brother and sister-in-law recently got a dog, and he is so cute. We've never had a dog before, so it's fun seeing all my siblings interact with it. The puppy gets a lot of attention when he comes over. After finishing the line art, I filled in the base colors and now I'm on to the shading. In my last Gacha video, many of you informed me that iPads have a screen recorder. Thank you for letting me know about that. I actually didn't know that they had that feature. Even though I now know that iPads have a screen recorder, I still kind of prefer filming my screen with my camera. I kind of like it because it changes things up and allows all of you to see the art creation process from a different perspective. Instead of just seeing my mouse cursor going all over the screen, you get to see my hand performing the actions, and I think that's kind of neat. For the shading of this picture, I'm keeping it fairly simple. I mostly use cell shading with a little bit of soft shading in some areas. I felt like I said this last time, but I really want to sit down and figure out which brushes I like. Maybe I need to make it a video or something or else I feel like I'll never get it done. But while working on this picture, I felt like I kept kind of fighting with the brushes. I don't know, it just felt like the coloring process wasn't going super smoothly and it just kind of felt a little wonky or like kind of weird. I don't know how to word it. I felt like I was constantly going into the brush settings and kind of tweaking the brush or trying to figure out how I wanted it. And so yeah. For the hair, I'm using the style where I draw curving lines along the different strands of hair. And then I fill in the bottom sides of the strands with the shadow color. Then I fade it out a little with a soft eraser and lower the opacity. I then add highlights with a lighter color set to add glow. Or add, I don't know what it's called in Ibis Paint. Many of you also let me know in my last video that Ibis Paint has a YouTube channel, and I definitely want to check it out so that I can learn more about Ibis Paint. For Coco, I kept the shading pretty simple and stylized since Coco is simple and stylized. I didn't try to define any fur texture. I did add shading in a way that kind of defines the shape of the muzzle. Is that what it's called? Yeah, so I tried to define the shape of it a little bit. After finishing the coloring, I saved my file as a PNG and then opened the PNG file to add some effects to the picture. I played around with the colors and also added the noise effect. I like to add the noise because I feel like it helps the art feel a little bit more organic. And ta-da! Here is the finished picture of Kiara and Coco. Thank you to iBlueBubbles for submitting this character for your friend, and thank you so much to your friend for creating the character. I had a lot of fun drawing her and her doggy. Now let's see who I'm drawing next. This character was created by Esmera. Her name is Melina, and she's 15 years old and a mermaid. Melina is joyful, adventurous, and brave. She loves to explore the underwater world. So let's start drawing Melina. It has been a super long time since I drew a mermaid, so I was pretty excited about working on this picture because it would be something new and different. Also, for some reason I've been in the mood to draw landscapes and backgrounds. It's kind of weird and not very like me, but for some reason that's what I've been wanting to do lately. So for this picture, I'll be drawing a underwater landscape. Also, I'm working in Clip Studio Paint for this picture. This picture is a bit more complicated, and I'll also be doing digital painting, so I thought I would use something that I'm really used to. Right now I'm cleaning up my rough sketch. Like I mentioned, I decided to make this a digital painting, so instead of doing line art and all of that, I'll be keeping Melina in this cleaned up sketch form. Okay, so my background is going to kind of poof into existence. I did this rough concept when I did the rough sketch of the character, and I wasn't planning to use it as my background. So right now I'm adding more shapes and tweaking the composition. Also, for all of this, I'm using the textured pen, I think. It has a bumpy texture, so I like to use it for rough formations. So now that the idea for the background is in place, I'm going to fill in Melina with her base colors. Usually I use the paint bucket tool, but because my sketch is kind of messy and loose, I get a better result if I fill in the colors myself. After putting in the base colors, I was going to clean up the backgrounds by going over it with a different brush and refine the details more. But when I kept trying to clean it up, it just didn't feel right. I kind of liked the feeling of my rough concept, so I decided to just slightly tweak the shapes of it instead of redrawing it. Once I was pleased with the shapes, I'm going to add some more texture and lighting effects like rays of light and lighting coming in from above. I add textures with a watercolor brush to the rock formations in the foreground and the background. I didn't really add any texture to the ones in the far background because water gets really cloudy and it becomes hard to see details when things are far away. So to help give the feeling of water, I didn't add detail to the stuff in the far background. Also, I added some ocean life, like little blobs that represent fish. I also remembered I had these fish saved to my asset library that I used for a different project, so I put them in the seaweed. I also added a kind of shape that looks like a turtle. Now that the background and its details are mostly in place, I'll start focusing on Melina more. I apply the teal color over Melina and set it to multiply to help her colors feel more cohesive with the background. I also start to add some highlights and shadows. Right now my layers are still all separate, but when doing digital paintings I like to merge my layers all together so I'm able to blend colors and clean things up more easily. I keep Melina and the background separate and don't merge their layers together because that would become kind of tricky to keep things clean and separate. After merging my layers together, I start defining details and add more shading. I do wish I would have changed my sketch color before merging the layers, but I forgot to do that. But I mostly blend out all of my sketch, so it doesn't matter too much. I feel like I kind of touched on this in my last video I did digital painting in, but I want to talk about it a bit more. So for some reason when I do digital paintings, it's like my mind enters a different work process or mindset, and it works differently compared to when I'm doing my usual shading style. And like I've tried to apply a kind of digital painting style to my pictures that have clean line art. For some reason I can only render the shading like this when I merge everything together, and I'm not totally sure why. When I finished this picture, my sister asked me if this shading style is easier than my usual one, And in this case I said yes. When I have more complicated lighting situations like this one, I find it easier to make everything feel cohesive when doing my digital painting process. However, when it comes to illustrations like the one I made for my sister's birthday, I feel like doing a digital painting for that kind of picture would be harder than my usual style because I never know how to digital paint when the lighting is like really normal or generic, if that makes sense. I only know how to go about rendering it when there is a really unique lighting situation, like in this picture. So yeah, I feel like using the digital painting style was better to use for this illustration compared to my normal coloring style, and I actually got this picture done pretty quickly. I got it done a lot faster than I expected. Oh, it was a lot of fun adding the scales to the tail. I basically just add a bunch of dots in kind of an alternating pattern. I didn't want the tail to feel really packed with scales, so I applied scales on one side and then the other side and then a little bit in the middle. That way the tail wouldn't feel too uniform or compact with scales. Now I'm working on the hair. I had fun defining the shapes and figuring out how the hair is flowing in the water. Another part I like about digital painting is that I can really easily change the shapes of things like the hair. If I wanted to add a strand or change how a strand is shaped, it's super easy to do because I can easily change the shape. Compared to my usual, I'm working with line art and then the coloring and they're all separate. And so if I want to change something, I need to change the line art and then change the base colors, and it's kind of a pain. So I try to figure out all of the shapes beforehand. However, with digital painting, I can kind of figure out the shapes as I go. For the irises, I do mostly work on them on a different layer to make things a bit easier. I made ovals and fully shaded them and all that stuff, and then I erased what I didn't need. Lastly, I'm kind of just adding the finishing details, tweaking colors and all that stuff. I had a lot of fun working on this picture and getting to draw an underwater landscape. It was fun changing things up and doing something different like drawing a mermaid. So here are the finished illustrations I created in this video. Thank you so much to Esmera for sending in your character. I had a lot of fun drawing a mermaid. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you to my lovely patrons for helping support this channel. My patrons get access to high-resolution files of my art, along with the Clip Studio Paint files so they can see my layers and all the behind-the-scenes stuff. If you aren't interested in joining the Patreon community, there is a link in the description. Lastly, we will end with a thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. I'll see you all next week. Bye! Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace gives you the ability to create your own space on the web. With Squarespace, I was able to make my own website and it was super easy. I now have a space where people can easily see my work, learn about what I do, and what social media platforms I am on. I can even display posts from my social profiles and on my website and automatically post website content to my preferred social media channels. A nifty feature Squarespace has is that you can connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content. Manage your members, send email notifications, and leverage audience insights all on one easy-to-use platform. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/lovetodrawmanga to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So go try Squarespace today and create your own space on the web.